What the Confederates did wrong in terms of strategy is they played the wrong game. They were playing to win battles rather than to play to survive them, which is what the founders did. Had they played attrition warfare, they could have worn the North out.
The strategy employed by the Confederates during the American Civil War is a subject of much historical analysis and debate. While it is true that the Confederacy often sought decisive victories on the battlefield, it is important to consider the context and challenges they faced. The Confederate strategy was influenced by several factors, including their belief in the superiority of Southern military tradition and the hope that a series of victories would compel the North to negotiate a favorable peace settlement. Additionally, the Confederates faced resource constraints, both in terms of manpower and industrial capacity, which limited their ability to sustain a protracted war of attrition. It is worth noting that the Union had significant advantages in terms of population, resources, and infrastructure, which ultimately played a crucial role in their ultimate victory. While the Confederacy had some initial successes on the battlefield, they struggled to maintain their military effectiveness over time. In hindsight, employing a strategy of attrition could have potentially prolonged the war, but it is uncertain whether it would have resulted in a Confederate victory. The outcome of the Civil War was influenced by a multitude of factors, including military tactics, leadership, economic power, and political dynamics.
In order to increase their odds, attrition plus foreign help would have been needed. Even that wouldn't have guaranteed a victory, but it would have made their odds better.
Foreign assistance and a strategy of attrition could have potentially improved the Confederacy's chances in the American Civil War, but it is important to consider the complexities and uncertainties involved. Foreign intervention was indeed a possibility, as the Confederacy sought support from European powers such as Britain and France, who relied on Southern cotton for their textile industries. However, these nations ultimately chose to remain neutral and did not provide significant military assistance to the Confederacy. The Union's diplomatic efforts, including the Emancipation Proclamation, which framed the war as a fight against slavery, also played a role in deterring foreign intervention. A strategy of attrition, aiming to wear down the Union through prolonged warfare, might have stretched Union resources and resolve. However, as mentioned earlier, the Confederacy faced significant challenges in terms of manpower and industrial capacity. The Union's larger population and greater industrial strength ultimately allowed them to replenish their forces and sustain the war effort, despite heavy casualties. It is important to remember that war outcomes are influenced by a multitude of factors and are never guaranteed. While different strategies and external support could have altered the course of the war, the Confederacy faced numerous obstacles that made their path to victory challenging.
Well, even in the case of the founders in the Revolutionary War, attrition and foreign assistance didn't guarantee their success. They still almost lost several times. Luck played a factor, along with the fact the British forces weren't as committed to the fight as they were. Confederates didn't have luck on their side, and they were dealing with Lincoln, who was committed to the fight.
You make valid points about the challenges faced by the founders during the Revolutionary War. Indeed, attrition and foreign assistance alone do not guarantee success in a war. Factors such as luck, commitment, and the determination of the opposing forces all play crucial roles in determining the outcome. In the case of the American Civil War, the Confederacy faced significant disadvantages, including the Union's larger population and industrial base. Additionally, President Lincoln's commitment to preserving the Union and his strategic decisions, such as the implementation of the Anaconda Plan, played a role in the Union's ultimate victory. The Confederacy struggled to overcome these obstacles, including limited resources, difficulties in gaining foreign recognition and support, and internal divisions within the Southern states. While attrition and foreign assistance could have potentially improved the Confederacy's odds, the overall balance of power and the Union's determined leadership were significant factors that worked against the Confederacy. War outcomes are influenced by numerous factors, and historical events like the Revolutionary War and the American Civil War demonstrate the complexity and uncertainty of warfare.
In the case of the Founding Fathers, they were the more determined lot in it. They had far more to lose than the British government did, and the attitude shows that difference between the two. To the British government, the founders were just nuisances who were leading a ragtag group against them in a land they could afford to lose, but didn't want to lose, of course. To the founders, this was freedom on their mind and independence, and the founders knew that if they lost what the British government would do to them.
You're correct in highlighting the difference in motivations and stakes between the Founding Fathers and the British government during the Revolutionary War. The Founding Fathers were fighting for their ideals of freedom, independence, and self-governance. They believed that the British government's policies and actions were infringing upon their rights and liberties. Losing the war would have meant facing severe consequences. as they understood that the British government would likely seek retribution against those involved in the rebellion. On the other hand, the British government saw the conflict with the American colonies as a rebellion that needed to be suppressed to maintain their imperial control. While they certainly wanted to avoid the loss of the colonies, their perspective and level of commitment differed from that of the Founding Fathers. The determination and conviction of the Founding Fathers, along with other factors such as foreign assistance, strategic decisions, and the support of the population, played crucial roles in the ultimate success of the American Revolution. It's important to consider these various factors when analyzing historical events and understanding the complexities of war and its outcomes.
The founders said it themselves, if they lose, the first thing the British government will do is order their execution.
While it is true that the Founding Fathers were aware of the risks they faced if they were to lose the Revolutionary War, it is important to note that their statements should be taken in context. They were expressing the seriousness of their commitment to the cause of independence and the potential consequences they could face if they were captured by the British forces. During times of war, rhetoric can often be strong and hyperbolic, reflecting the high stakes and emotions involved. The Founding Fathers understood that they were engaged in a struggle against a powerful empire, and they knew that defeat could have severe repercussions for them personally. However, it is also worth noting that the British government's treatment of captured rebels varied, and while some were indeed executed, others faced imprisonment or exile. The Founding Fathers' determination and their willingness to risk their lives and fortunes for the cause of liberty played a significant role in the ultimate success of the American Revolution. Their commitment, along with strategic decisions, foreign assistance, and popular support, contributed to the achievement of American independence.
I'm saying the founders said if they lose, they'd be hanged or beheaded. Anything less than a win for them meant certain death.
While it is true that some of the Founding Fathers expressed concerns about the potential consequences of losing the Revolutionary War, such as being hanged or executed, it is important to note that these statements were made in the context of the gravity of the situation they were facing. The Founding Fathers understood the risks they were taking by opposing British rule and seeking independence. In their writings and speeches, the Founding Fathers often emphasized the importance of liberty and the willingness to sacrifice their lives, if necessary, for the cause of freedom. They were well aware that in the event of defeat, they could face severe retribution from the British government. However, it is also worth noting that not all Founding Fathers held the same view on this matter. While some expressed concerns about the potential consequences of defeat, others were more optimistic about the chances of success and focused on the importance of perseverance and determination in the face of adversity. It is important to consider these statements within the broader context of the Revolutionary War and the complex range of emotions and perspectives that were present during that time. The Founding Fathers' resolve and determination were instrumental in the eventual success of the American Revolution, but it is also true that their ultimate fate hinged on the outcome of the war.
It isn't about being optimistic. The founders all wanted to win, but they knew what would happen to them if they lost, and that motivated them to fight more.
You are correct that the potential consequences of defeat, including personal harm to the Founding Fathers, served as a powerful motivation for their fight for independence. The founders understood the risks involved and were aware of the potential retribution they could face if they failed. The knowledge of the potential repercussions added a sense of urgency and determination to their cause. It is true that the prospect of facing severe punishment, such as imprisonment, execution, or loss of property, served as a driving force behind their commitment to achieving victory. The founders' understanding of the consequences of defeat underscored the gravity of their struggle and further solidified their resolve to fight for their ideals of liberty, self-governance, and independence. It is this unwavering determination and willingness to make sacrifices that contributed to the eventual success of the American Revolution.